Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti, with your host Zaki Baruti. And like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family, as well as Universal African Peoples Organization, what's going on, as well as the New Life Evangelistic Center family headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work, and a shout out to our cameraman Bob. On that note, we're going to have another great show because we're going to be doing part 2 of a 2-part series with Omali Yeshitela, a historian, author of 13 books, as well as chairperson of the African Peoples Socialist Party and chairperson of the Black is Back Coalition. Welcome again, sir.
Well, thank you so much.
I just made mention that you are the chair of the African Peoples Socialist Party. What is the African Peoples Socialist Party? How long has it been in existence?
Well, the African Peoples Socialist Party is an organization that is committed to unifying the struggle of African people globally so that we can re-achieve self-determination, as say, to be in charge of our own affairs as a people, as opposed to being lorded over by foreigners and aliens, wherever that is, whether it's in the United States or whether it's in any place around the world. So that's who we are, and that's what our struggle is about. And that's what informs what it is that we do here in the United States.
So when did you come into existence?
The African Peoples Socialist, I was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was that bridge, that organization that represented a bridge between the anti-racism civil rights movement and the anti-colonial Black Power movement. So it was the Student Nonviolent
And they were closely associated with Dr. King, am I right?
They worked closely with King. They worked closely with King. They came out of this entire civil rights movement, but closely with King, yes. And because, Ella Baker, who was an extraordinary African woman who many people do not know of, is the one who organized much of the NAACP throughout the South, when it was extraordinarily dangerous to do that. And she was a key organizer for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference headed by Martin Luther King. When the students in 1960 in Tennessee went on these sit-ins to counters trying to be served, and it sparked something that it started happening everywhere. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference was somebody who thought that there should be something done to try to coordinate all of that. Ella Baker was the one who took that on to coordinate, and that's why it was called the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Okay. And King and SCLC wanted them to become a student wing of SCLC. Ella Baker disagreed with that and got the students to build their own organization and process. And it was Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Many people became familiar with the man who was called Stokely Carmichael at the time, and there were other forces as well, but people knew Stokely, and who when he passed was known as Kwame Ture. He was associated with the Black Power movement. Black Power became the slogan demand. And so I came from that process. I came out of that and organized. It became clear that we had to move beyond simply protest, which in fact, I was involved in one of the first direct action, Black Power direct actions in this country in St. Petersburg, Florida, when in 1966 I tore down a mural, an 8x10 mural that really disgracefully depicted caricatures of black people, with huge lips covering most of our faces, extended arms, and that kind of thing. And after they refused to remove this from the local seat of government power, I led a demonstration and I tore it down. I got jailed. I got charged with 11 offenses. I was tried on some of them and sentenced to 5 years in prison for that. And in and out of prison based on that. I spent about 2.5 years in prison all told around that particular case.
Wow.
Yeah.
And 11 charges. Wow.
Yeah.
Tearing down something that depicted us in a vile manner.
Vile manner.
So, again, though, the founding of the African Peoples Socialist Party, what year was that?
That was in 1972.
And what are the aims and objectives concretely of the African Peoples Socialist Party?
The African Peoples Socialist Party organized for the total, absolute, unconditional liberation and unification of Africa and African people globally. That's what we are about.
Okay, and in terms of within the title, because there's a lot of fear mongering out here in our communities. You have the word socialism.
Yes.
What is socialism?
Socialism simply means that the people who produce the wealth collectively ought to own the wealth collectively. That's all it means. If you look at the production,
And we don't have that now.
It's a fundamental contradiction that we live with is that you have socialized production on the one hand, but you have private ownership of everything that's produced socially. And that's a contradiction that demands all kinds of struggles and problems, etc. And African people are central to this whole question of the production of value that happens in the world today, because we and the attack on Africa by Portugal something like 600 years ago was created for the first time in human history a single world economy, linked the entire world up into a single economy. Before then, there was no Europe, no white man. It was just the different fiefdoms in what we now know as Europe, hostile and sometimes combating each other, etc., and living under the worst kinds of conditions. And so when as recently as 1300s, some really important things happened in the 1300s, one of which was Mansa Musa, this African, I think that might have been 1328, who traveled from Mali on his way to Mecca, and he had an entourage of something like 6,000 or more people on foot, camels, horseback, traveling all across Africa with gold. He was building mosques, giving gold away. They'd never seen anything like that before. But you're talking about a time shortly thereafter when the economy of what we now know as Europe was so bad that in England, people literally, this is a literal truth, people were literally eating their cats and dogs and sometimes even their babies. This was a literal truth. And so this is what started what they call this whole thing of exploration, except trying to find out if the world is round. No, they were trying to find that gold, that Mansa Musa, to relieve their economic problems. Anyway, that's the thing that kicked it all off. That's the thing that created the economy we live with. That's the thing that resulted in the colonial terror that we experience even today. And the fact is that since that time, we have been trying to get out of this situation, and it brought us to St. Louis,
Absolutely. We have to take a break.
Sure.
But on the other side of the break, I want you to clearly, for our audience, define what is capitalism and imperialism.
Yes.
Just drive downtown St. Louis, drive by City Hall, and you'll see, what do? For a year now, a fence is all the way around City Hall and neighboring parks to keep the homeless people out. You talk about a visible enlightenment as to NIMBY and how it exists. Just take a look at St. Louis City Hall. Not in my backyard is what they're saying, but they're not alone. So many other people are saying, not in my backyard when it comes to the hurting and the homeless. So where are they going to go? What are they going to do? We haven't seen a single new shelter open in the city of St. Louis for 15 years due to something called plat and petition. And it's not just the city of St. Louis, it's St. Louis County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, Madison County, St. Clair County in Illinois. What are they doing? They want to ship their homeless to St. Louis. That's wrong. We have to see each county taking care of their own homeless people. And that's why we may have to file a lawsuit in the near future against Jefferson County and St. Charles County and St. Louis County to take care of their own homeless according to Missouri state law and start shipping it everywhere else. Well, in the meantime, we need your help here at New Life Evangelistic Center. We receive no city, state, or federal dollars. Our teams are out every day among the poorest of the poor. They don't need our excuses. They need direct help. We are having to distribute hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches, hundreds and hundreds of bottles of water. We urgently need water. You can bring it to 806 North Jefferson in Springfield or 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. There are so many, many hurting people. Yes, in Springfield we get 150, 200 homeless people a day, and most of them sleep outside. So we have to distribute tents and sleeping bags, and long underwear and gloves and socks and hats. Why don't you have a drive at your church and help us at this time? Further information, call us at 1-800-334-3276 or 314-421-3020. That's 314-421-3020. Go to the website at nlecstl.org, and your tax-deductible gifts are urgently needed now. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166.
Prayer really does overcome so many obstacles, and we're so thankful for how the Lord is using your prayers right now that you've lifted up for New Life Evangelistic Center to perform many mighty miracles. But our prayers are what should drive us to act And so I want to invite you to work alongside New Life as well. You can partner with us with your talents, your treasures, and your time. Please join us for volunteer events that are going to be coming up. Or call 314-421-3020. Again, 314-421-3020. And by doing so, you will take the first step to really making a difference in the lives of thousands of people all throughout Missouri. How I thank God for our partners who have ministered for so many years to hurting people. We need you right now to get involved today. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Brother Omali Yeshitela. I had made mention earlier as I was coming to the studio and wanted you to define capitalism, but your name, Omali Yeshitela. You know, for me, Zaki Baruti is my cultural name, means charitable teacher, kind teacher, that kind of thing, as a former educator. Does Omali Yeshitela have a meaning?
Yes, Omali is a derivative of a Yoruba word, Omawali. Of course, Omawali means the son who has returned, prodigal son or something like that. And Yeshitela is Amharic from Ethiopia. It means umbrella for 1,000 people. And I have another name.
That.
Yeah.
Umbrella for 1,000 people.
Yeah,
That's tough.
Yeah. And in South Africa, I was given another name in a ceremony that happened there, Zwelaki, which simply means his land. You know, the land is his, talking about, Africa as well. Yeah, so.
Now, going back to what I was going to pose the question of what is capitalism on the other side of the break, so that people are clear. What is capitalism? Some people, in terms of economic definition, how would you define it?
Well,
and imperialism.
That's really important to understand, because capitalism is a system that was born from colonialism. This is not how it's usually defined. Capitalism is something, a social system that is based on what is characterized as private ownership of what it takes to produce value, food, clothing, and shelter, and what it is we need. It's privately owned. You have social production, but you have now private ownership of that which is produced socially. So that people who make cars socially often can't afford to buy that car. They don't own the car. The car is owned by somebody who doesn't work at all, but who owns the means to which this is done. And so that's part of what defines capitalism. Capitalism is also defined as a system that does not pay the ones who produce the value of what we produced. For example, you make a table, and you're in a factory with people who make tables. And the table may sell for something like $30 a table, and you may make collectively in that factory, you may make collectively a table an hour, but you get paid $4, $5, $10 an hour when a table sells for $30. So that extra money is called surplus value. That's profit that they're talking about. That's ripped off from the working people, etc. We don't like that. We think that the people who produce the value socially ought to own it socially and not go to a particular individual. Now, people are suspicious and frightened, often made frightened by socialism, but that's the way we've lived as a people historically. You produce, you eat. You know, people who do this collectively are the ones who, and you came up like that. I didn't have to be there. I know that you're old enough to have come up in situations where we had collective existence. Nobody went hungry as an individual. Collectively.
Right.
And they've put systems in place that's supposed to help us, but made us now individuals out on our own, dog-eat-dog kind of relationship. So capitalism is a very vicious social system, and it's based on profit. Everything is done for profit. Nothing is based on, if you have a hospital is not there to heal people. Hospital is there to make profit. That's why you don't find all kind of sick people in hospital unless they got money, insurance, or something to pay for it. Everything is profit driven. That's the kind of social system, and we hate it. We don't like that. We feel like if somebody's sick, somebody should be able to have health care.
Free health care.
Yeah.
Imperialism, real quick.
Imperialism is something that's defined by many people as the expansion of local domestic capitalism to the rest of the world. That's how it's often referred to. V.I. Lenin, which is one of the primary thinkers of modern capitalist explanations, characterize imperialism as capitalism that has reached its highest stage. It's capitalism that has become rotten ripe, as he used to characterize it. So that's what he said. I challenge that. I say that imperialism comes from the word empire, and that and imperialism did not come from capitalism. Capitalism came from empire, and empire is what brought them to Africa. It was empires, that European empires, etc., brought them to Africa, stole our resources, and from that they built the capitalist systems that we know in the United States and various other places in Europe.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now, most recently, you were in Tampa, Florida.
Yes.
For a very heavy trial, which involved yourself and two other people known as the Uhuru Three. Explain to us, to the audience, in terms of the dynamics of that case, of your case.
Yeah.
And when did it take place, and what was the backdrop of it?
The backdrop, of course, is something we talked about last week, or the last segment, where we were arrested and charged with working for Russians because we were criticizing the treatment of black people, because we did an election campaign that for the first time in history put reparations on the ballot, because we collecting signatures that to take the United States before the World Court, United Nations, based on the United Nations Convention on the Punishment and Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. So they said that we were doing...
Wait a minute, you said genocide. I want to make sure everybody understand terminology. What is genocide?
Genocide is something that was defined in 1948. There's a guy named Lipski, a white guy who was, I think, Polish Jew. I think he was Polish, who campaigned everywhere because of what happened to Jews. And for a law that would prohibit this ever happening again to Jews. Okay. And so this law was something that the United Nations adopted in 1948.
Okay, and it, well, we got to take another break.
New Life Evangelistic Center wants you to join us for our events. We have a variety of different kinds of events that happen throughout the year here at New Life Evangelistic Center, and you're invited to all of them. We have special faith promise and fundraising dinners that we definitely want you to be a part of. Here you'll learn more about our staff, you'll learn more about all the different things that are going on at New Life, and you'll also be inspired by what God is doing by building His kingdom through this incredible ministry. You don't want to miss these dinners. We also have special fundraising events like a walkathon. And we have another event where we will spend a night out with the homeless. This is a very special event, and we don't want you to miss it. We also have unique events where we serve homeless men and women and equip them with the things that they need to survive. These events happen throughout the year, and especially during Christmas and Thanksgiving. Here we serve meals, we serve tracts, and we preach the gospel with our words and with our actions. We definitely want you to participate with that as we seek to interact with people who are experiencing homelessness. For all of these kinds of events, we need volunteers. So you can learn more about our events by going to nlecstl.org/events. Or you can call us at 314-421-3020 to learn about our closest event. I definitely recommend that you get involved in your community by partnering with us here at New Life Evangelistic Center.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Brother Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We'll discuss on the other side of the break his involvement as a defendant in a case called the Uhuru Three. Continue, if you will.
Yeah, genocide is something defined by the United Nations containing several aspects, one of which is depriving a group of the ability to reproduce itself, putting people, taking the children of the group from that group and giving them to somebody else or to some other entity. I mean, those are some of the things contained in the description of genocide. There are There are many others that we can talk about some other time, but the Genocide Convention is one that we put for them.
Okay, and you're saying that was part of the backdrop of the charges against
Yes,
you?
yes.
I mean, okay, go ahead about the charges.
Yeah, because, if you look at genocide, if you're talking about preventing birth in the group, you look at a situation where the United States has the largest prison population on the planet Earth. It's more than China, more than any other place on Earth. And in fact, it may be that Louisiana has the second largest. Texas has the second largest prison population in the world. So that means if you're locking up all these young men, of course, does that makes it impossible for reproduction, at that age. So that's part of what it is. And then we were charged with, because I went to Moscow twice, Russia, and they said that when I went to Moscow, that's where I became a Russian agent. And I went to Moscow on two occasions. One had to do with the conference they were having on migrants. And giving me an opportunity to meet with other people, because I'm trying to take the issue of black people all around the world and win as many friends as we can for our struggle. And two, they had a conference dealing with nations who are struggling for self-determination. I went there. People from all around the world, not just me, not just African people, but from all around the world were there. And so they said doing that was...
Were there other citizens from the United States there?
Yes.
Were they charged?
No. One of them, a white group, I don't think it was even there, may have been there, I'm not sure, but was charged as an unindicted co-conspirator. Then this is a white group. The guy who was charged as an unindicted co-conspirator lived in Russia, took money from the Russians, and who had a movement that was designed to try to get California to succeed from the United States and belong to white people, right? This is what his efforts were. He did no charges, no trial for him. Like I said, so it had nothing to do with any of that.
People attending.
Yeah.
So when did the trial take place? And what was the outcome?
The trial took place September 3rd. And that's when it started. And of course you were there, and it ended on September 12th. And the prosecution, the state brought...
So you had two charges?
Had two charges.
And again, the charges were?
The charges were working as a foreign agent without registering. And we were supposedly Russian agents. That was one charge. 10-year sentence went with that. And then the other was with failure to register as a foreign agent, conspiring to work as a foreign agent for Russia without registering. Those are these crazy charges and what have you. And so the foundational charge, they said we were not guilty of. Said we don't work for Russia, which was also saying we work for black people, just like we said. And so that trial was an extraordinary trial. The prosecution brought no human beings. They brought 14 witnesses. Everybody they brought as witnesses worked for the government. 12 of them were FBI agents. 2 of them were so-called experts on Russia that they brought to testify. And they could not bring a single human being. Not one human being could they bring to testify that we did anything that they said. Not even people who were ex-members of our organization. And this is usually what they do is they flip somebody in your organization or put somebody there to have them. So they weren't able to do that. And we were able to convince the jury without putting up a single witness on the stand. The only thing we were able to do, produce our Burning Spear, our newspaper, the Burning Spear, and show that we've been doing this stuff now for more than 50 years that they claim started in 2014, that we've opposed every war NATO and the United States has been involved in, every one, not just Ukraine, because they claim that our opposition to the United States war against Russia using Ukraine as the vehicle. They claimed that was Russian paid for, inspired, and that kind of thing as well. So we won that case for all practical purposes.
Okay, then, but you were convicted on a second charge.
Yes.
And we're going to take a break and discuss a little bit of that on the other side.
For years, Zaki Baruti has been an activist in our community, and it's a real privilege of mine to have known Zaki, to be with him on many of the marches, and to continue to see his perseverance. You and I also must know that we can, in the midst of pressure, and yes, there's a lot of pressure on being an activist. It's a thankless job. Many times people don't appreciate it. Many people don't understand you. They ridicule, they reject you. But we have to continue to, in spite of the pressure, to continue to trust God and speak truth to power. That's not easy. It's easy to give in. I think of the nuclear submarine USS Thresher that went down so deep in the 1960s into the ocean. It just exploded or imploded, and the pieces were all over it. 129 men died, but yet there's those fish they discovered later that could continue to swim in the midst of all that pressure that destroyed that submarine. Why? Because there was equal pressure inside that little fish that withstood the rest of it. Now, you and I can experience that power inside of us, and we find it right here in the Word of God. For greater is He who's in us than he that's in the world. Christ, the hope of glory, can come and dwell within us. As we surrender our life to Him, we'll see Him do exceedingly abundantly beyond we can even ask or think. This Bible is just filled with directives how to overcome pressure. Read the book of 1 Peter, where it says your faith is more precious than gold. See in 2 Peter chapter 1 the promises that are awaiting you at this particular moment there. And continue to look at how the disciples overcame pressure in Acts chapter 5, even counting it all joy, as James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3 tells us, in the midst of pressure. It's right there in the Word of God. I'd encourage you to read the Word of God and let Christ's hope of glory come and dwell within you, because the pressures are becoming more and more intense at this particular time. But truly, you and I can be the activist, more than conquerors through Christ who strengthens us. Continue to persevere, never giving up or giving in, but continue to give it to God, moving forward, experiencing hope and help at this time.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. I'm rushing through my last part, Omali Yeshitela, in part 2 of our two-part discussion. You were convicted, found innocent on one charge, guilty on another. So what's the next steps? What's taking place now?
What's taking place now is that we're preparing to go back to sentencing in Tampa, Florida on November 25th. And we want as many people who came for the first trial, for the trial, to be there, because the people are the main ingredient here. And the people are what made it impossible for them to even convict us on that 10-year sentence charge of working for the Russians. And because the jury was able to look out every day, and they saw you, and they saw all those other people in the courtroom, it was very clear. They saw people look just like them. They didn't see anybody they could have easily identified as Russian. So that's important. And so that's going to be on the 25th. In the meantime, preparing for that trial, we've been getting people to write letters, character letters about me, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, who are the other of the Uhuru Three. And we plan to go there with 500 letters, at least 500 letters for each of us. So we're calling on people to do that. Go to handsoffuhuru.org to make that happen. And then on November 2nd, building for the November 25th, we're also, the Black is Back Coalition is going to have a march and rally, Black People's March in Washington, D.C., march on the White House. And it's going to be Africans and Mexicans and Filipinos and Palestinians and other people who suffer from the same colonialism that we suffer from, so that we are making a powerful statement that to the state that the people know what's going on and the people are opposed to what you've done and what you're trying to do. And this is going to also help build for November 25th, where we'll be in Tampa, Florida again.
And again, for anybody who might be interested after hearing you, how would they get in contact with you again? I mean, yeah, your contact info.
I think the most important contact info at this point is to go to Hands Off Uhuru.
Hands Off Uhuru.
UHURU.org, because this is where all the dynamics surrounding the charges and how we're moving forward with that to November 25th. That's where you can locate that, and you can come on to this process. And people who can make it there in September, you got a chance now to make it there in November.
And having been there in Tampa, let me just say that the court was packed every day. And I'm proud to say that our organization supports and stands in solidarity with you. And as we did in part
from the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So keep up the great work, sir. Appreciate you spending time with in the chair with Zaki Baruti.
Thank you so much.
And like always, to my audience, do vote, but know the issues and vote conviction, not fear, as well as join an organization that speaks truth to power and working for the upliftment of our people and have a track record. On that note, may God bless each and every one of you.